Hello? Hello, 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 it's me. I'm back. Let's break the simulation for a little bit here. I just realized that on this model the body is super broken. Anyways, here we are. Here we are now. Entertain us. Alright, let's open up MangaDex GD. Actually, Manga Reader GD. Because what we're gonna be doing is this. I've actually renamed this already, but where the Git repository has been renamed, but the local repository has not been updated yet. So we're getting to it. Now we'll just need to hit it with an import. I swear I'm gonna get back to the game dev stuff. But I'm having too much fun just writing like regular applications. I forgot how enjoyable it was. The joys of programming. Which, in a way, sounds kind of sad. But it's okay. It's alright. Ooh. Something broke. It's confused. MangaDex, Manga Reader GD. Alright, here we are. I wonder... Okay, that's interesting. So, I wonder if Visual Studio Code stores like extension data per project in like a central location, right? Because I used to have Godot tools enabled for this project. And I always kind of thought that it just stores them in the like a dot folder somewhere in it, but you know what? Now that I'm looking at the folder structure now, there is no .vs code here. There's only a .import, which is a Godot thing. Interesting. So VS Code stores extension configuration somewhere else. That's neat. Something I did not realize. Neat. Alright, it's kind of freaking me out. Every time I look at it. Bring me back to the duck. Not as good. It's pretty good. And you know what? While we're here, not actually working on anything. Let's see, viewer rewards. I was looking, yeah, look at that. I saw that Twitch just gives you emotes for free now. Oh, hello, Gold Apple Game. How are you? How are you doing today? I'm a bit late as usual, so I'm still trying to get my bearings. Was trying to finish up some work before I went on leave for American Thanksgiving. Although, strangely enough, my leave request has not been approved yet, so I might not be able to go on leave. We'll see. Because everyone who was able to approve my leave request also went on leave, and I just kind of did not realize. So, what we're working on today is the manga reader stuff. So we go back here. We can also open up Postman. I've been sucked back into the rabbit hole that is just regular software development. I find it a lot more, I don't know. It's like in the short term, regular software development is just more gratifying, shall we say. I think actually finishing a game feels really good, but you know. This is faster. How are you? I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Did not have my nap, my usual afternoon nap, because I just worked instead. It's rough being in a position of actual responsibility. Who would have guessed? Yeah, so this is what we're working with, by the way. Or I can even show this running in the editor, which is even cooler. IMO. So Manga Reader GD. Look at that, it's beautiful. Have Postman up on the other monitor. We'll copy the token, slap it in here. We'll look at all the manga that I'm currently reading. Oh, heck yeah. Oh, there's 2 new chapters of So no Frieren. Anyways, this works. Look at that. Ignore most of these titles, by the way. These are kind of weird. We can look at the Arknights comic anthology, though. Look at that. So it's very MangaDex-esque. There's 3 invisible buttons just kind of overlaid on the screen right now. And so that's how we're kind of emulating the move to the right, move to the left. I suppose it's kind of weird since it is supposed to be read right to left, so it should be you click on the left side to turn to the next page, but I'm just used to flipping the page left from right, or right to left, so you click on the right page to move on in the book. But I've kind of like turned my brain around so I read right to left, but then I also flip the page from right to left as well. Isn't that kind of weird? So you're Japanese book, right? Or manga, Japanese comic. Japanese manga is kind of redundant, but you read right to left, but you turn the pages left to right. I suppose that's not weird, it's just something I haven't thought about. While in a Western style book, you read left to right, but then you flip the pages right to left. My small brain did not consider that up to this point. But it makes sense. Actually, now that there's like a younger generation, do the younger generations, like, do they not think about flipping pages? Do people just think about, like, do you swipe right to left? Man, I'm thinking about all these things. My brain is actually activating for the first time today. That's wild. Anyways, what we're gonna do is start adding more controls. So one of the things that's really missing here is like some sort of control bar. Because right now, there is no way to stop reading whatever you're reading. Once you're reading it, you're kinda locked in. I'll work on my game some more. Good luck, good luck. I will also be working on my game some more, probably over the weekend. I'm just gonna keep pushing it off. I have time. When is it due? It's due little more than a week. That's tons of time. I wish you good luck. What I'm going to be doing, just kind of killing some time, working on a completely inconsequential piece of software, but I think it's interesting. It's like solving a puzzle that has no stakes whatsoever. But more than a puzzle, could potentially... I suppose some people frame puzzles and put them on their wall, which that's something I've always thought is kind of weird. Guess it'll be a panel container, huh? So we'll do like a top bar kind of thing, right? anchors. This will just be its own panel container. Scroll all the way here. Margins, no margins. Or we'll add the margins later. Then the bottom bit should be... What's going on with the bottom bit? Say 0.2. 0.2 feels like a lot actually. 0.15. That feels a bit better, I think. Yeah, and then we'll add margins of just 10, 10, 10, 10. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe no margins, right? Since this is just the top bar. And you can see that it's slightly translucent. This is the top bar container. What do we have here? Okay, so I can change this name since I'm using the kind of weird node path thing. We can do, this is just the manga container at this point. Yep, these are still correct. Now inside of the top bar container, we'll just make it an HBox, right? HBox with a bunch of buttons inside of it. So this is button, size flags. We'll just have everything just expand. Why not? And then we can also make this auto hide as well. Yeah. I think that makes sense. Yeah. So, what kind of buttons would you want? I guess you would want like, I don't know. Top bar container. What things would you want your control bar to have? And the idea is that I guess you would only see it once you kind of mouse up to the top. Otherwise, it'll just auto-hide itself. So you want a back button for sure. Back button, always good. Back button. And then this will only be visible on the read chapter screen. So on your home screen, which looks like this, kind of boring for now, but I'm not sure what you would even want here. I suppose I could have another top bar. So this is an HBox container, but we can wrap that up inside of another like VBox container. So we would have maybe like a search bar at the very top, maybe like a log in, log out bar. We're going full Twitter basically, or full Bootstrap UI. Since I think the Bootstrap UI, one of the main points of it is that you always have like a persistent top bar with all your options in it, right? Any web designers out there? Who am I kidding? We'll get around to this though. I think a search bar at the top would make sense though. Let's focus. Let's focus. What are my notes, by the way? So there's caching. Yeah, we'll get to caching eventually. This is just the back button. What else? What else? What else? What else? You would want probably like a refresh button, since sometimes it, the request to get the image just fails for whatever reason. All right, that's pretty good. Looking pretty good. I suppose like a, I don't know. What else would you want here? What else would you want? I'm thinking. Maybe a search bar? I don't know. Let's do this for now. I think this is okay. So export. export var. So this is back button path. And this is refresh button path. All right, so we'll just need to set these. Easy. Completely UI driven, but we'll get back to that. We'll refactor that eventually, I should say. All right, so these are all manga container stuff. Or no, actually, these aren't all manga container stuff. This is like, these are just like, those are just like controls, and then these are top bar things. Right. I think I do prefer organizing my nodes like this, because it's just slightly more logical. Ooh, there we go. So on ready var. Let's see, you have your back button, some sort of button. Back button path as button. Still very weird how you need to cast it, even though it is a static assignment. So this is the refresh button path. Yet another button. Let me see. Let me hit it with a... Grab the bot as well. Actually, what is the bot's uptime? I wonder if it's ever restarted. Yeah, the bot's only been up for 8 hours. Interesting. So, oh, I wonder if that's why sometimes the bot will try to send more than one notification during a stream. Yeah. Wonder if that's it. I've never considered that, but, and yeah, you know what? That makes sense. If the bot restarts while my stream is still going, and if I didn't have the kind of like last message check, then yeah, the bot restarts, then it'll see that it'll poll to see if I'm streaming. It will not have the previous value stored, and thus it will just send another thing. Unfortunately, I don't really have control over when the bot restarts, since it's hosted in someone else's container. How fun. Let's see. Boom, boom. Let's see. Back button. Connect. On. Back. And then this is refresh button. Do the same thing. On refresh. So I think refresh makes a lot of sense, or at least it's really easy to implement. Back button, I'm gonna have to think about that, because then I'll need to basically cache the, where I store the last page you were at some point. Right? Because there should be a few places you could be. You could go view a manga from your home screen. So your home screen just has your feed. But I'm also wanting to add in search functionality. So you could also go to the read chapter screen from the, I don't know, like the manga screen, I guess. So there's like view manga and then read chapter. Viewing manga is just looking at all the chapters for a specific manga, whereas home screen contains the latest updates. And I think those are your only, those are your only two entry points into reading a chapter, I guess. At least until I add more functionality, but we'll wait on that. Although I wonder, maybe it would be worth it to maybe make this like toggleable by just pressing on the middle button, aka just the middle of the page. So that's just kind of your like giant control bar. Yeah, that might make more sense. That might make more sense. Yeah, top bar container. I think I'm gonna do that. Export var top container path. Yeah, having too many controls, we're splitting them up like this. It's just kind of painful. Because then you start running into redundancies. It's like now these two separate controls are doing the same thing, but separately. So now it's unclear which one you should go to. At least that's how I feel about it when there's like too many UI options in an application. Right? Sometimes I just kind of wish like, man, I wish I had just a big bag of UI controls, UI options, and I'll figure it out. Just don't change it too much. So on middle. I wonder. So I could have, because what I'm thinking here is, right, we'll expand this out to be like 0.3 maybe. So it'll be pretty big. You'll have more options, so I will break this out into, this will be a VBox container, which contains an HBox container. Set all these to expand, blah, blah, but then we can add another one. Right? And then we'll have just different options. So this one will be top HBox container, or top, I guess top row. I'll call this bot row. Right? Have these take up the same amount of space. Yeah, and then we'll just figure out what we want to do. It's a bit unclear as of right now. But here's the other thought, right? Is that we'll have an invisible, maybe like an invisible button, just at this level here. Oh, I forgot. Okay. Okay. Let's add a control. So the controls generally do not listen to. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Did that not work? Ooh. All right. Maybe I don't want to make this a control. Maybe I should make this a. So what I'm doing, right, is I need some way to listen for, like when you click off of, you know, this bar, it should hide the bar, right? And I should also intercept all input afterwards. So the really, really easy way to do that would be to intercept input at this level and then just check to see if this bar is visible. If this bar is visible and we haven't intercepted anything at the, you know, the button level, then we'll just hide, right? So prevent you from doing pretty much anything. That could work. I'm not a huge fan of that though. I'm not a huge fan of that. If event is Input event mouse button. Button index. Then we have maybe we could do this. So we have a default case here for just inputs. That's tough though. That's tough. Because we need these, we need to pass along the inputs. So we can, That's why I was kind of wondering aloud about how I can have just like a button be available, I guess. What if I do this? So we just slap in a regular node. Put the button here. And then, can't I? Yeah, okay. Oh, I forgot. Maybe a node 2D. Then we can do the same thing. Maybe. No. That's tough, man. That's tough. That's tough. Hold on. So what I'm trying to do, we can do a double control layout. No. Can I not? That used to work. Well, something else I can do is to nest these inside of another control. So these control, or this control will just be full rect. Then we'll slap top bar container into here. So nothing has changed. The control allows nodes inside of it to position themselves as needed. And then we can put a button here. This button will be full rect. Theme override, so this will just be a very sneaky button. So the idea is that you will never be able to see this button. It's in the background, but if you do pretty much any inputs that doesn't trigger one of these controls, you'll trigger this background button instead, which will hide the controls, I guess. So it's a slightly more inefficient way of doing it, but it kind of goes along with the utilizing as many UI controls as possible, as opposed to rolling my own logic. Just need to change how you think about it, I guess. So what is this? This is more or less like a top bar container, right? Or this is like options container. This is like hide options button, hide options button, hide options button. No text, but we will hook it up to something. All right, so let me see. Top bar container. This actually needs to change to options container. Options container path. All right. On ready var. This is options. Poop. Good try. Good try. When you try your best, you don't succeed. How are you doing, Knock? Unfortunately, you rolled. Man, I forget what the name is. Doug Chonk. Look at that, wasting your points. I like it. It fills me with joy, knowing that with every redeem, you grow further and further away. 45,000 points? Oh no. Oh no. I better Better up the value of that. He has too much power. Alright, so this is options container. It's false advertising. Well, I did give you a heads up. It's not false advertising to raise your prices later. It would be false advertising if you redeemed it and then I rejected it and then raised the price. But don't worry, I will honor it. I am honorable enough. But just because I have honor doesn't mean that I can't be nervous about it. Please don't. It's anti-consumer. It is anti-consumer. That's fair. But I don't think I've ever advertised myself as being pro-consumer. I just happen to work on open source stuff. I just had to pick the perfect moment to use it. Your lowest point. What you should do is just save up for 2. It would be the ultimate troll. To force me to close every single program to pivot and then pivot back to whatever I was doing at the time. First you implement an OS and BF. Nice. Now that's a language I just don't understand. Any of the like the esoteric langs, I just don't get them. Well, emoji lang is pretty good. What was it called? It's Doge script is also pretty good, but I don't think those really count. It's a little Turing machine. What's not to understand? Yeah, my brain is too small to understand that, unfortunately. Small brain. Hide options button. Like I get the idea of it, right? So you're just pushing things, or how does BF work? It's so you have a function pointer and then you can just put things onto the at the pointer, or you have a pointer that you can just manipulate and then you just put things at the pointer. Has to be infinite, won't fit in small brain. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm trying to remember how it works though, right? Like it's you basically have a it's a tape. Yeah. And then you can move forward or move back depending on whatever you want to do. And then you can put data there. Actually, what kind of data can you put in it? I don't even remember that. Is it just true or false? Numbers? Okay. It can be any symbol. Nice. Well, is it really any symbol? Or actually, no, I was about to say, like, why is hello world so long then? But no, it's any character, I suppose, right? Won't be BF then? Yeah. That's all right with me. But a Turing machine is any symbol. I do not recall. Like I started reading the book on APL just because. For whatever reason, I refused to read the Rust book, but I'll read the book on APL. And let me tell you, that's a language. That's a language. To prepare for your APL pivot, yes, exactly. It's actually pretty cool. If you had a specialized keyboard, I can see why APL would be really nice. Right, because everything just has its own symbol. Although I really do not like how, I think like I was, one of the few things that really stuck out to me as being really weird is that APL has a separate multiplication sign. So you have X, and then you have like the multiplication X, which is a symbol, and then the star character is actually used for putting things to the power of, which is wild. And why not just have the same thing but with functions, with ASCII names? Like it's semantics, not a syntax. I don't know. I feel like it's an interesting idea. I don't remember why you would want to use the symbols over sentences. I think it was, I don't know. I can see the appeal of it for sure though, right? Because so instead of having to read the word, you just look for the symbol. I mean, APL for humans, I suppose. Makes sense to me though. Not very practical, but it makes sense. I'm sure there's other things you can do as well. Like I remember seeing the Fibonacci sequencing they did. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Fibonacci sequence in APL. It's almost like you're reading a word, right? As opposed to, if you read Fibonacci sequence in a regular programming language, it's like you're reading a paragraph. But in APL, it's more like you're just reading a single word, where a single character in the word is like a different function. It's a subset of programmers. I think less code is more elegant code. Most wrong thing I've heard in my life. Yeah. Generally, the people that think that are the same people who don't work on big projects. I think expressive code is good, but less code does not necessarily mean more expressive, and verbose also does not necessarily mean more expressive as well. That's true. Which part? The part that people that think that less code is more elegant, or expressive code is bad or is good? This is a YouTuber that thinks APL is the bomb. I thought APL was a programming language. Anyways. Works at a big company, I forget which. I mean, like I said, like there's a reason why people like APL. I just don't quite understand it just yet. There's a reason for a lot of things. Maybe he's just like a masochist, Lisp. I've written a Lisp. I've written a Lisp in GD scripts. Lisps are all right. You can find that thing, actually. Let me see. Where's my profile? Oh. We'll just hit it with one of these. GitHub. Hooray. All right, now I can click on it. And there we go. There's a Lisp working in GD script. Free and open source available. The REPL is available just on my itch.io. Hooray. Where is it? GD Lisp REPL. It's pretty close to Clojure in syntax, I think. Somewhat, not really. I've made a few changes. Code reports. Get the preview video off my screen. Oh, it's Code Report. It's this person. I recognize this channel. Don't look at my recommends. Oh god. get the subscriptions off the screen. C++ Haskell dev, very amazing dude, but he likes APL. Yeah, I guess. He thinks APL is elegant. Maybe he's just a big fan of Apple. Because I see that all the thumbnails that have APL in them have an apple right next to them. It's actually awesome. I'm working on a VREM. I'm looking for ways to use Clojure in Godot. I think there's like an actual way to use real Clojure in Godot. There's Godot, Clojure, and then Arcadia. So well, I don't know. I guess it works. I've never tried it, but it seems like it works. From the same team that did Arcadia Unity. But JVM, hey, there's nothing wrong with JVM. JVM is pretty fast, actually. Maybe a little less portable, but as long as you're running on PC, you should be fine. Slow to start. Yeah, it is very slow to start. That's fair enough. It's all right. Just have your game running in the background as a daemon. Once it installs itself, it auto starts on whenever they boot up their computer. Therefore, the JVM will always be running. It'll always be running hot. Yeah, well, can't you use Graal VM? I actually don't know. That's like a real question. Would Graal VM work? Since I know Graal VM does AOT, but it works sometimes. I don't know when you would use it, but sometimes it should work. Like I think libgdx can run AOT if you compile it using Graal. It may, but getting it to work with Godot sounds like a hassle. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know too much about that. I don't do Java anymore. I only do Python and Rust at work. And Go. And Groovy. I guess Groovy is JVM. Because it compiles to LLVM. Why are you using your Lisp for this project? Well, because my Lisp is very incomplete. So technically it works. I am currently rewriting my Lisp to not use as much recursion anymore. It's not quite tail call optimization. It's mostly just so I can have like a pointer to whatever thing is executing at the time, so it's easier to navigate the AST. Maybe pivot into learning Rust. I'm not reading the book. I don't read books. I only read the documentation and then struggle along. Okay, it's this one. Yes. So on refresh, this will force a refresh of the current page. This one, I think I'm just going to, we'll just preload the thingy. Lisp is better. I like Lisps, but I just don't feel as productive, or productive at all, I should say, when I write in Lisp. I like the idea of it. Have you tried writing what's it called? Hilang? It's a Python Lisp that can compile down to Python. Pretty neat. I think if there was any Lisp I would actually use for a real project, it would probably be that. I don't know if that's heresy or not. Home screen is equal to whatever this is, instant. And then we have access to main. Then what is it called? Main display, change screen, one of these. I suppose I should use duck typing instead of using two functions that have very similar names. I've been playing around with Fennel, more of a Lua user. Oh baby, do I have the thing for you then? It's funny you should mention Fennel, because, let me see. I have something here. I worked on a Lua thing for Godot somewhat recently. I just need to find it. What did I even call it? All right, so it's not quite Fennel, but it is an example of using Lua JIT with Godot. And then I said I would get back around to doing the Fennel stuff, but never really got around to it. Because as it turns out, it's pretty difficult to do. Yeah, well, the problem is that you need to compile Fennel before you actually link it into your Godot game. Because I guess Lua JIT just doesn't like to execute Fennel as in like interpreted mode. This time it's actually false advertising. Yeah, well, it's to do, okay? You don't understand. Anyways, there's that. I think the Fennel stuff is still on my local. I'm getting around to it, okay? Yeah, Emacs, stinky. Vim all the way, but I do know that you're supposed to use Emacs and like the slime package or whatever, isn't it? That's what you're supposed to use if you're doing Lisp development. Yeah, I don't know. Emacs keybinds are weird, and also because since I don't use a standard keyboard, it's hard. And also for work, right? I jump around a lot of servers, so I'm pretty much obligated to use Vim, or not even Vim, just VI. The servers I work on don't have Vim pre-installed. It's very painful. So many packages. Yeah, well, the problem is that there's just too much stuff. There's too many weird keybinds. I don't remember. All right, what is this one? Look at this. Neat. So I think I'm gonna have to change the theme on these to make these more visible, but then you can page through. Say like a good thing. Who the heck is that? You've not read critically acclaimed manga Freyren's Funeral? Is that how you say it? It's German. No, on the left. Who is this? I don't know. Oh no, she is one of the first class mages from a previous arc, I think. So this is Freyren. This is Fern. And then I don't remember her name. Don't recognize her. She was in a few chapters. A side character for sure. Anyways, I'm not gonna read this like live on stream. Although check it out, we can start reading this as well. Forgetting Fern. I did say Fern. Oh, I struggled to remember the name. Oh, this is just the title. So this is, don't recognize this character, but it looks like it has this character, which is death. This is Song, so it's like a gift to give something. No, Freyren. Nice. Anyways, this is where we're at, and then we can go. Oh, I don't have a home button. Oh no, back button is home, so we can refresh. I guess that's fine. I don't know what happens. We can go back. Ooh, that's not good. What happened? Ooh, let's stop pressing buttons before I like crash the entire program. Evil mode is nice. I couldn't get used to the default bindings either. I started to make my own config that replaced most of them with VS Code-like bindings, but there's too many oddities to smooth over. Doom Emacs seems to fix a lot of those concerns. What is Doom Emacs? I'm not actually familiar with that. Oh, okay. Can't preload instance at... Oh, that's why I can't preload. Okay, I remember now. It's because it's kind of like it's a weird circular dependency, I guess. Home screen. Oh, yeah. Evil mode in Emacs is Vim bindings, right? Yeah. What is Doom Emacs? I could easily Google this, but I'm currently busy being a huge weeb. Change screen to... I really should duct type this. I'm kind of regretting doing this now. All right, you know what? Let's change this really quick. We're gonna duct type it. So we get rid of this. So screen, idle frame, so we wait for a little bit, and then we can do, I don't know. What do I want to do here? Well, we can do a match type of screen. To use a split keyboard, I just got the Coolertron programmable split mechanical keyboard. I haven't been getting used to it. Oh, I absolutely cannot use a split keyboard. You call yourself a Rust programmer? That's one of the things I really like about C# and like Java is function overloading. I think Golang kind of has something like that, not quite. So Golang does, you just pass in an interface and then you just figure out what it is afterwards, which is strange. I strongly prefer doing function overloading. Overloading is overrated. Nah. Function overloading is super sick. Anyways, I've shown this off on stream before. Not my actual keyboard. I need to clean out my actual keyboard, but I use one of these. So, I've moved back to this keyboard. I've missed using an ortholinear. And so I have my own kind of weird set of keybinds. So I'm pretty much any keyboard now. I have function bound to, you know, function layer here, WASD for arrow keys. Then I'll just have the regular, I guess, Vim style arrow keys. And then I have punctuation and home and insert delete also here on 2 different layers. Ergodox, no. Split keyboards, I can't do it because I type majority with my left hand. So it's tough. So what would this be, by the way? Is this a node or is this a variant? Is this a variant? What types do I have? There's no variant. There's only object, I guess. I'm having trouble with the B key. Pain. Current screen is equal to, I guess, screen, right? And then we have type string. Then we'll do current screen is equal to load screen instance. And then this should be an error. And by error, I mean it's just going to be a print and debug. Tried to change screen to unhandled type B and Y. So eventually, no. I don't know, like it's really weird. On a standard conventional keyboard, or I guess a standard layout keyboard, unless it's a laptop keyboard, like I type really fast on a ThinkPad. I type really quickly on a ThinkPad. I hit maybe 100 words per minute on a standard laptop keyboard. On this ortholinear keyboard, I tend to hit I can hit 110, 120. The best I've done, I think, is 135 on like a really short sentence. But on a split keyboard, I've used a split keyboard before, and I was like barely 70 words per minute. Almost half. Mostly because I type with 3 fingers on each hand, more or less. Plus I use my pinkies to hit the shift key. So it's not quite Hunt and Peck, but it's close. It's very close. And you might be asking, did you never learn how to type correctly? And I will tell you, that is 100% true. So I'm not, at this point in my life, not really willing to relearn how to type, unfortunately. Change screen, read chapters. I don't think I can do this. Yeah, I don't think I can do this anyway. I think I have to pass in a path. To be fair, the fastest typist doesn't really type the correct way. Is that true? I don't really know too much about, I guess, that kind of typing. I do know that if you are, what is it called when you are like in a court of law? You are one of those typists. Hold on. Hold on, my brain is breaking. Yeah, this is okay. So this is only used here. I have VS Code, I don't know why I'm using it. Like, it's open, I'm just not choosing not to do any editing inside of it. Steganographer, right? Stenographer. Yeah, stenographer. He's done it. I don't know why my windows are so small, but use one of these fancy things. I think I saw on like r/mechanical keyboards, someone made a mechanical keyboard version of a stenograph, or whatever they're called. Now that's cool. I think that would be kind of neat to learn how to type on. It doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me, but I'm for it. So change screen. So some of these, yeah, change screen. I think now we're handling everything correctly, so we can get rid of this. We're using duck typing, and then we're just matching whatever it is. So we can just send it like that. Paste in my API key, or not my API, my session token. Let's go to Shadow's house. Look at that. This is a very good manga as well. Don't feel weird about showing this on stream. What kind of switch do you prefer? Used to be more about clicky switches, but now that I've used like good tactile switches, I'm all for it. All for tactile at this point. I think I started out with blues, and then I tried Cherry MX Browns, but Cherry Browns, I don't know, like I tend to rest my fingers on the keys. So like when I was using the Browns, I would always like accidentally press just random keys. But now I'm using Halo Clears. So those are, I think, like 10 grams heavier actuation weights. So I think it suits me, I guess. Or it works for me, I should say. It doesn't suit me. But it works. Let me see. Let's grab the options container. So we'll hide it via code, not via UI. So we'll hide. Browns are my favorite. I don't know. I think if I could find like Topre switches, in an ortholinear format, I think that might be the dream. I've used Topre. I have now used Topre in my life, and let me tell you, Topre pretty sick. Even though they're not real mechanical switches, they still feel really good. Like if you're into tactile switches, Topre is pretty much the best, or one of the best. Halo Clears are also pretty good. I think Holy Pandas, I also have some Holy Pandas, which are also just tactile. But I don't know. It feels like those have a bit too much travel for my taste. My taste, I should say. 72 switch key tester. Yeah. Is this good, by the way? I've been talking a lot, but I haven't really been paying attention. You were fans a while back, and some of them are satisfying to click. Ooh, I want to read this one, actually. but I don't think I should read this on stream. But we're gonna click on it. Look at that. This one's pretty good. Trail of Blood. Need to do something about the background here. But so we can go back. Actually, you know what? That's something I needed to do, was test out the back button. Nice. Please work. Cool, so that works. Yeah, 72 switch. Yeah, some of them do feel really good though. That's what I was talking about, by the way. Some of them do feel pretty good. I don't know. Like my favorite clicky switch, probably Cherry MX Greens. Haven't really tried too many other clicky switches, mostly because people don't really make too many clicky switches. Most of them are either tactile or linear. Linear, I dislike. They just feel kind of weird. So my Huggy Fasting says to customize. Yeah, well, isn't it? It's just based off of like muscle memory, right? So like you don't need to. So once you get the muscle memory down for a certain like sequence of words, right? So like a very common sequence of characters in English is shun, T-I-O-N. So once you get really good at doing that, you just need to, you know, options, you know, just be really quick on the draw with those 4 plus possibly 1, 4 plus 1, 5 characters. And you already get like a pretty fast speed increase there. Isn't it like, if you want to go really fast, you'll also want to avoid doing double characters. So like current, you need to press R twice. But I guess if you wanted to go super duper fast, you would just like hit it with 2 different fingers. Almost like you are, it's not called double sticking. But when you're playing like piano, right? If you want to tremolo on a specific note, you need to hit it with 2 fingers. I think I've seen it where people hit it with 3 fingers actually, which is just crazy. What am I doing? I think I was changing how this looked. So visibility. I'm pretty sure I don't want to do this. Yeah, okay. It's like I need to do a theme override, but I don't want to. I don't think that's a good idea for the panel container. What I could do is this. So we can just kind of slap a color rect inside of here. And then just make it black. Oh, that looks bad. That looks really bad. I don't know. I guess this one can be custom, right? Because I think I'm already using... Yeah, I am using a panel container in other parts of the program, so I can't just change it either. Yeah, but I don't really care about typing super duper quickly. Not really part of my prerogative. Does that look alright? Oh, it's because it's using a custom one. So now I need to do content margin 10, 10, 10, 10. We can make it like a dark blue-ish. This is dark blue. It's like a purple. What's the opposite of turquoise? Turquoise, it's like a yellow, right? Kind of a, yeah. I spend most of my time thinking, like, I need to make a stupid program. Anyways, that should be functional, I guess. I don't know how I feel about this color now. Maybe like a... That's roughly good, right? So if you have turquoise, the complements is like a yellow, golden yellow, right? Oh, you know what? I'm talking about like keyboard switches though. Actually, I still have the desk toy here. Look at this. It's like a little. Remember when fidget toys were popular? So it's like a fidget toy that's it's like shaped like a ball, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has 6 switches on it. that you can just, and they're all different switches. So I have like a, I think this is a MX, this is a Cherry MX Silver. So it's a linear but quiet one. This is a red. This is a black. No, this is a brown. This is a brown. This is green. This is silver. This is blue. Where's black? I don't remember. Cry, cry all along. I cry every time. Yeah. So that's fun. Actually, I wonder if I can find it. Where did I even get this from? I don't think I got it from Amazon. But it's like a keyboard, switch, fidget. Fidget cube. Yeah, keyboard, switch, fidget cube. Yeah, I have one of these. It doesn't look like this, but it's pretty close. It's on Etsy. Oh, I have one of these. This is pretty much exactly what I have. It's pretty sick. Except mine doesn't look like super 3D printed like that. Yeah. It's fun though. You just kind of click it. You can try out all the switches. Let's see. What I'm thinking, right, is what if I split this out into its own thing and just have this be present on every single page? But now I'm also thinking that this doesn't work because there's no way to activate it on every single page, right? So starting this here, we bypass the normal login. We break because we didn't get a proper response because there is no user data. Oh, you know what? Don't I have a check for that? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So if you do the normal login, it'll do a check for data, and if it doesn't have the data, then it doesn't try to continue. Plan to do some what the hell with C or C++ and OpenGL. I feel like you're currently deep down way in the depths of game development, which is good. You'll realize how horrible it is to work with that level of software. Or maybe you'll find out that you really like it. I don't know. For me personally, I hate working with OpenGL. Or I don't hate it, but it's just like there's so many other things I can do with my time. So many other things I can do with my time. It's like I know myself well enough to know that I just will not be good enough to do that, right? That's not like oh, I'm so bad, but it's more like I just don't have the focus to do that. You know, I think if you paid me to do it, yeah, I could do it. But I don't want to. Alright, let's see. Let's get another token really quick, just to make sure that this thing worked. And then we can start working on an LFU cache, so I can stop hammering the server over and over again. So this works. We hide it. Look at that. Click on the middle. You can get the really ugly top bar to show up. Side projects are tough. Yeah. Actually, well, all of these things are side projects, right? Like this is its own project. This is OpenCBase GD. You can find that on my GitHub. Free and open source, etc. Let me see. I don't know if I've already explained this to you. This is also open source. Look at that. Whee! Who needs stream avatars? That's pretty much all I do on stream is just work on side projects. I haven't been inside streams lately because the stream notification is not mentioning me. Do they not mention you? Or, I mean, my Discord bot is sending stream notifications, right? Or are they not? Like, I don't get pinged by them. I probably could add myself to it. Yeah. Here's what I'm thinking, is that I will have... Yeah, okay. Here's what we're gonna do. So on the home screen, we have an HBox container. That's fine. But then we'll also do VBox container. I'm gonna replicate the kind of this top bar functionality here, except I'm not going to use the same top bar. And actually, there's not going to be very many screens like at all, right? So all screens are, it's almost like the same layout as this, right? Because with this program, all the screens are dynamically generated. Oh my god, he's doing it again. We're dynamically generating all the screens. Actually, this would be a great opportunity to turn my XML formatting language that I use for this program, to turn it just into like an HTML-esque language. That would be very strange, and I'd be super into it. Probably not a great idea though, if I'm being honest. So I think there's gonna be a few V boxes. So there's gonna be, or a few H boxes. So this is, I guess this is top bar container. They're different. If I learn C++, Godot power is mine. It is. Yeah, once you learn C++, the amount of possibilities that you have when programming really opens up, that's for sure. That's for sure. If I learn C, I can learn other languages? Maybe. I suppose. Yeah, I guess if you are smart enough to learn C, then you can learn any other language, that's true. More or less. Although I do know that, you know, I do know that some C programmers do struggle with learning like Python, right? Or some C, I know some C programmers who just can't write Python, they just can't write Java, right? Because in C, you have direct control over everything, whereas, you know, in something like Java or Python, you kind of give up direct control, and that makes people uncomfortable, which I get, you know. Once you have total control, it kind of hurts to give up total control. Whereas, as someone who learned Python first, I've never had direct control, and thus it does not feel like I've lost direct control. Right, because from what I understand, the biggest hurdle is not having access to like pointers and stuff, right? And thus you kind of don't know when you're working with a value type, or if you're going to be modifying I guess modifying a reference or not, or if you're working with a value or a reference. That's kind of what trips up a lot of people. Let me see. We'll do expand, fill, or fill, expand. Put this here, just in the middle. Ooh, panel container. Panel container just here. I think I'm just trying to learn C++ to tell myself so I can try to learn more. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but if it works for you, then by all means. I think starting with a hard language first is tough. Starting with a hard language first is tough. It takes a lot of commitment. But of course, you know yourself best. If you think that you can do it, then by all means. Just know it's going to be a lot more difficult than working with a language like Python, which is easy. Don't need to think about anything. It just works. You know what? This should be a VBox, I think. Change type. Or you know what? What am I doing like this? Just undo me. Undo me. Redo me. What am I doing? Sure. Yeah, okay, so we can just do search. Search, like that. I mean, I think I can get through 1% of it because I know some stuff of programming already. Well, see, the problem is that you started at a higher level programming, right? So you know some C#. So C#, you don't really work with too many references. Like C# does have access to references. You can define a parameter as a reference, but C# doesn't give you raw access to pointers unless you, I guess, unless you're using a library that does that for you. I suppose there are C# libraries that give you raw access to pointers, but they're not things that you would usually use in most tutorials. Right, C# has a garbage collector, C does not. So when you're working with C, you also need to remember to pack everything up. C#, what does it also have? It has, I don't know, like lots of like nice built-in tooling. Whereas with C, unless you're using someone else's package, like you're using the bundled Notepad++ thingy with Raylib, right? Unless you're doing that, then you'll need to get used to, I don't know, doing things a certain way. You learn a certain way of using a tool. Like you either learn how to use the command line really well. I know my dad, who is a C programmer, only knows how to write C if he's using code blocks. Otherwise, he just, I don't know. He's like, I know how to do this, I just don't remember how to compile. Because it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of things you need to remember when you're doing it. Some would argue it's a few too many things you need to remember how to do when you're writing C. I think Raylib would be a good choice for me to learn C or C++. I'm gonna be honest, when I was trying to do Raylib way back in the day, wrote a thing in C, did everything on the stack, plus used Raylib's built-in memory management stuff. It was really easy. Pretty much like every screen was just like push a new screen onto the stack. So you have your, your game screen, or you have your menu screen, and then you have your game screen. So your game screen just exists above your menu screen, and then you have your in-game menu screen that you push onto the stack whenever you want to go to your menu. And then you take it off whenever you unpause, etc. I thought, yeah, that works. I guess that's just how you do things in C. Like, there's probably a better way, but for a simple UI, that's not bad. But then I tried to move over to C++ and just had no idea what I was doing. It's like, yeah, you need the preprocessor defines when you're working with Raylib, so if def C++, then you hit it with the extern C whatever, right? Search bar path. But then when I went to compile, I just couldn't do it. It's like, man, I'm missing, don't know what's happening. It's taking my files and it's mangling them. Must have done something wrong. Been trying Visual Studio Community 22. It's actually good, ultra dark mode. Well, here's the thing, is that your IDE doesn't really matter, in my opinion. Even though I just said that my dad can really only program in C or C++ using code blocks, from what I remember. Might have been NetBeans, but I'm pretty sure it's code blocks. Like the editor doesn't matter. As long as you are using an editor, it's pretty much that. They don't really get too much different after you set up the editor. There's not too much difference. They're all kind of the same. I don't know, I've tried it out. Yeah, they're all kind of the same, right? Like some have some fancy stuff, I guess, right? like built-in debugger, but you can configure anything to be at that level. Like there are people out there, like I was saying before. I don't know if you were there for it, but I've said this before at the very least, that some people do all their programming in Vim or Emacs, right? Because you can just get plugins to do everything like a regular IDE, I should say. You can get plugins that do everything a real IDE would do for you in a text editor. Whereas going up with C++ and Unreal, I think. Yeah. Doom Emacs. What is Doom Emacs? Doom Emacs. Martian hacker. Is that because Doom takes place on Mars? Oh, there we go. We have one of these guys. Ooh. Tailor for blah blah who want less frameworks in there. Frameworks. Boom boom. Startup is really quick. Language server protocol. I don't know. Let me see. Declarative package management system. Oh baby. Is that what the Nix mention was? That's neat, I guess. Oh, is this just it? Neat. Oh yeah. This is just this is like a packet. This is like a bunch of Emacs plugins packaged together, right? Isn't that it? Been trying a lot of stuff to do. Setting up monogame is confusing. Well, I've got bad news for you. If you think setting up monogame is confusing, setting up any C# or any C or C++ project that isn't, I guess, done for you in a tutorial is gonna be really tough. Unfortunately. Yeah. It's an Emacs distribution. Yeah. So it's an Emacs distribution, so it like has a bunch of plugins built into it, right? That's kind of what Slime is as well. So you could just take regular stock Emacs and then just install all the plugins afterwards. Yeah, no, I think the only time I've really tried to use Emacs was to use the what's the tidy mode? What is it called? The note what's the note-taking mode called in Emacs? I heard that was really cool. I started using it and was like, wow, this is neat, and then just never used it again. Org mode, yeah. Not tidy mode. Org mode. Or I guess tidying is a synonym of organizing. Yeah, Slime is one of the main packages you add to your Emacs OS. Yeah. I think I was seeing that like on Chrome OS, Chromebooks, right? Since they just give you a terminal, you can just use Emacs as like your everything, right? And so you don't even need to do like the entire containerization stuff. As long as you have your Emacs configuration stuff, you can just bring it all over. And so that kind of takes the place of running a Linux distribution inside of a VM on your Chromebook, something like that. All right, so log out button. So log out button does what it says on the tin. It logs you out. This one is your search bar path, which we'll use for doing search bar stuff. Refresh button will just send all the refresh requests again. Super slow, at least on mine. I was running it in the VM though. Yeah. I don't know, like have I told you this story that when I was in school doing all my programming stuff, my programming classes, my main laptop broke. So I got like a really cheap, I think it was actually a fairly powerful Chromebook at the time, but it was like $300. Came with an actual Intel processor. and then installed, was it Gallium OS on it, and just used that. It was like an 11-inch screen for all my programming work for the next 2 years. So I think if you just replace the entire OS with Chrome, it should work fairly quickly, and as long as you have like a real Intel processor, I should say. Get. This is basically just get data, huh? Anyways, I'll be setting up Raylib today. Wish me luck. Good luck. I wish you luck. It shouldn't be too hard as long as you're running on Windows and you're using the built-in installer, right? The one that comes bundled with everything inside of it. Should be pretty easy. Should be pretty easy. It's when you start branching out into, I guess, the C++ one. Or I guess if you decide not to use the built-in installer and choose to link everything yourself, that's when it starts getting kind of dicey. Read chapter. So we need to hook up the various buttons. I use the installer. Oh yeah, then the installer is really easy. Yeah, the installer is really easy. So you're just going to be using C++, or no, you're going to be using regular C. You won't be using C++ then, is that what you're saying? Log out button, connect, on log out. This one I have, you have a Samsung, something with some sort of, looks like a rock chip. Is that a rock chip? Oh no, it has an Intel Celeron. Not great, not horrible. Not bad as a side laptop for chilling in bed. Nice. Nice. I think that's also what I generally use those for. What is it called? It's text entered, right? Text entered on search bar entered. Those are pre-files for VS Code and VS 2019. Which one the one you got, so you can imagine how slow it is. Yeah, well, I think if you don't use the VM and you actually just like side boots Gallium OS, it should be a lot faster. If you're willing to do that, you do have to, at least when I was doing it, you did have to void your warranty. So, don't know how feasible that is for you. It is cheap though, so. Bruh. I use Light XL when coding on it. Why not just use Emacs, forehead? What is Light XL? Oh, it's something written in Lua. Nice. Oh no, it does scripting in Lua, but it looks like it's built in C, so it uses Lua as its scripting thingy for moving things around. Is that how it works? Cool. So I have other game genres I want to use Uni or Udeo to do those games. Why not just stick with one and get really good, and then you'll be able to transfer those skills over to other things. Have you considered this? Right. Once you learn how to use one game engine, they all kind of bleed together. I think if on logout, I'll just kick you back out to the login screen, right? I'm gonna do that someday, but I got a Pinebook Pro I want to replace it with. Ooh, a Pinebook Pro. Have you seen, talking about the Pinebook Pro, have you seen the Pine Phone? I think it's the Pine Phone Pro, is that what they're calling it? Nah, that looks cool. That's the first time I was like, wow. I'm very tempted. I know I shouldn't be, but it looks cool. Like, I don't know why I would ever use it, because I do enjoy just having I have a Samsung Galaxy 21, S21, sorry. But, you know, running Linux just on my phone sounds neat. Doesn't sound very practical, but sounds neat. You should try to use Godot though. Get NixOS running on it. NixOS. I've used the Nix package manager before, not NixOS. I feel like in terms of OS, I'm very vanilla. I tend to either stick to Ubuntu distributions or Fedora. Main change screen, login screen path. Yeah, okay, so there's logout. Func on search bar, enter pressed. Enter pressed. I think this takes, what does this take? It takes line edit. Most code is in Lua. The original author wanted to keep the C API as minimal as possible. That makes sense. That makes sense. Signals, text, enter, new text. But then someone forked it, which is what Light XL is. Nice. Yeah, well, it makes sense to have a C API, right? So then everything can bind to it. Because everything is, most languages have a C compatible API. Not everything has like a Lua compatible API. Which is why Godot is neat, is because it exposes the C API. So you can hook up whatever you want. Unity's powerful. I don't want to go through the problems I have with it. They're all the same. they're all the same. And Godot might need some games to go around, so why not? Well, Godot has a lot of... I think that the problem with Godot is that people only use it to make 2D games. And to be fair, I think in terms of 2D performance, Godot is... I think it was not really benchmarked to be faster, but they did like a very rough comparison. And so... like Godot was faster than Unity at 2D. Unity was faster than Godot at 3D, but I guess the scalings on both were, I guess, different. Is like Unity was like 3 times as fast, whereas Godot was like almost 2 times as fast. So it's not quite the same, but not too bad when it comes down to it. Pinephone Pro looks cool. I think I prefer the original at first. At least someone gets NixOS running on it. I think the problem with all that kind of software is that it's just not... the less common it is, the harder it is to develop for it. And it's not even like looking for people to develop for it. It's like there's just not enough knowledge for you to do things by yourself on it as well. Right? Like if you were to give me just any computer and be like, hey, like install this thing on it, I'd be like, yeah, I got you. Easy. But if you were to give me a phone, I'd be like, man, I don't know. I don't work with phones. Although I have no idea. Because the processor, pretty much everything about it is just different. And we're Godot in the future, a lot of AAA devs are making games with it and it looks amazing. Well, the future is now. You can be part of the future. Why wait? Is it Guix? What is Guix? The new community wasn't so saying about excluding non-GPL software uses Scheme Lisp, which is superior to Nixlang. It's not... The Nix configuration thing isn't Turing complete, right? It's just like a configuration language, basically like YAML, but not YAML. Sure, the people that use Nix OS on that are going to be much smaller. Yeah, well, using like any like alternative OS is going to be way smaller as well, right? All right, now I need to think about this. Everyone shut up. How do I do this? Oh, I need to clear out, whenever I refresh data, I need to clear whatever was in there beforehand. Basically Nix but in Guile scheme. See, that's another thing about a lot of Lisp that kind of confuses me, is that like, why are there so many types of Lisps? Why can't we just have the one Lisp? Lisp is one of those languages where it seems like Like, unlike a lot of other languages where there are a lot of splinters and then they all kind of congregate towards one, it feels like with Lisp, you know, how you have Emacs Lisp, which you use when, I guess, just doing Emacs stuff. Then you have SBCL, which seems to be the primary one that people make games with. Then you have, there's like the just basic Lisp. I don't really know. Then you have all the types of schemes. So you have Guile, you have Chicken Scheme, you have, that's the only 2 schemes I can remember. Too easy to make your own. I don't know what you're talking about. When do I add them, by the way? User feed. All right, so user feed for child in user feed, get children. We'll do child. We'll just free all the children. Hooray. I think Clojure dev revived it. Brought it mainstream. Yeah, Clojure is pretty sick. 10 out of 10. I've never worked with it professionally, or I've barely even worked with it normally. But I think Clojure is nice. Ooh, that's not good. What happened? Oh, I see. I see. Okay. So it's because of... Where is it? Is it this one? It is this one. Okay, so this one needs to go all the way down. Yeah, I think I would like to work with Clojure someday in the future, but not today. I have other things to do. But one day. All right. So here we are. So we can hit it with a refresh. Nice. And I think... Oh, no. No. Okay. So here's a bug. It doubled up on everything for some reason. So where am I storing these? I'm storing these somewhere. I don't remember where though. So user feed, we add the things. Oh, I am storing them in chapter data. So what do I do with chapter data? Oh, okay. Yeah. So wait. How does this work? Who wrote this? Oh, so I get the user feed data, which gives you chapter data, and then I need to get the manga name, which is separate from the chapter data. And that's why I need to do these in 2 requests. Okay, yeah, I remember now. I should actually add a note, because I am 100% about to forget. All right, everything is good. Nice. Let me see. User feed request only gets, or actually no, I should comment it here. So this kind of has an implicit callback, which is very strange. But user feed data only contains chapter information. We find manga information in a separate request. So this is like a very clumsy callback. Very weird, very weird. But that should work. And by that should work, I mean this change should work. So chapter data, clear. Right. Then we hit it with one of these, slap the token into there. Who needs input validation? And then, look at that. Hit the refresh button. How nice. Ooh, that looks okay. tab values don't really add up, but that's okay. Neat. Cool. Cool. I'm still not super sure what I'm gonna put here. I think I might even take out this sidebar, and then it'll just be one big list, right? I don't know. We'll think about it. Or possibly there can be like other options as well. So this will be like your random user data. So another thing I had in mind when I was working on this, or when I was just brainstorming ideas for what to do, I was thinking I might do an AnyList integration as well. Why? I don't know. Mostly because I thought it would be cool. So here we are. So let's actually get around to making the LFU. So let's create a new script. Or maybe we can just do it in the main display part. So there's main display. Yeah, okay. So we have all of these resources that are preloaded. That's fine. We create them, I think. Yeah, on setup. And then we can also do, create a class called just LFU. So a least frequently used cache, aka LFU. So lowercase LFU is just an LFU. How nice. So on setup, we'll do all of this stuff, then LFU is equal to LFU new. All right, now this is where things start to get spicy, is that I don't remember how an LFU works. Well, I know how an LFU works, right? So it works by reordering things based on how frequently they are used. So you'll probably need a few LFUs. So yeah, let's try to avoid using it or looking up a tutorial just yet. Let's get smart with this. And also, this is one of the programming things I had to do when I was doing interviews. If I remember correctly, yeah, it was Microsoft. They made me do like a live coding thing, like implement an LFU for us. And I was like, geez, I barely understand how one works, but okay, let's do it. I think my biggest problem was I tried to do it in Java, even though I hadn't done Java for like half a year at that point. I should have done it in Python or Go. But that's also another thing about like programming things live as part of like a graded exam, or rated exam at the very least. Is that like you're not allowed to Google things, but whenever I start a new project, I never remember how to start. Like even now, I think in Java, I don't think I can type out the main function from memory. It's like a static void main. It takes something as arguments, which are your command line arguments, but after that, I think that's it. Maybe. Not quite enough to get started in an IDE for sure, but if you just want to run a Java application from the command line, I think that's enough. So your LFU will have a var. So this will be your cache, your actual cache. Or I guess not your cache, but this will be your counter. I'll use compile languages enough to remember those. Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing, is that you don't usually have to, but when you're doing when someone's watching you and they're trying to give you a job, they're like, you Gotta do it from memory. If you didn't, then tough luck. You're out. It's definitely the worst. Do it once and start a new project, never again. Well, yeah. Well, and also you do it whenever I start a new project. I usually just like copy over like what I need from another project. I never write everything out. Yeah, never write it out. Like I think I've written out like the main function once when I was in university. And then after that, I just keep copies of my old projects. And then, all right, well, this looks pretty good. Like your POM file is now my POM file. So, what would you call this, by the way? Is this isn't really the cache. This is like the cache counter. This is, well, like there's the LFU, which is some sort of array. Well, we'll call it LFU, right? So LFU, which is some sort of pool int array, maybe. That's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I don't know if that makes sense though. I could use a pool vector 2 array and then, but that makes sense. What would I use a pool vector 2 array for? Pointer store. So do you know how an LFU works? That's like a, I've kind of, the intonation of my voice is kind of weird though, but so an LFU, least frequently used, so it's usually called an LFU cache. So what it does is that whenever you make an image request, or in my case, what I'm trying to use it for is, since I don't send different requests, I don't usually send different requests. So let me see if I can find Mdr Handler. So you can see here that these are all just the functions that I've implemented. It's kind of a weird way of doing it, but Godot doesn't really have great HTTP client functionality. I mean, it does. It gives you raw access to it, but the callback system is kind of garbage. But I'm doing it in GD scripts so that it's portable. Yeah, so whenever you send a request, I'll cache the request. And then, you know, whenever we want to send it again, we can check our LFU. Well, for certain requests as well, right? For certain requests, we'll want to cache them. Not all requests will be cached. So, like getting your followed manga, we probably don't want to cache that. I think getting a specific manga, we do want to cache that, and then give you the option to optionally refresh, send a new request, but usually mangas don't change all that much. So I guess if you're just looking for manga information, that probably won't change. I think the LFU I definitely want to do is the image LFU cache. What do I call it? Items? Cache items, not indices? Yeah, caching items. Did I say indices? we're caching things, not indices. But they are going to be stored as indices. They're going to be stored as indices, I think. I'm still trying to think about what I want to store these as, right? So I have a few things. So I have a pool byte array. I don't think I want to store my... Actually, hold on. Yeah, you don't want to cache lists of things because they change often. Usually individual items don't change as often. You could also just look at e-tags maybe. What are e-tags? No, what I want to cache is the... So when you look at a manga page, or whenever you change manga pages, currently I just discard the entire page. So I would want to cache those. I guess. Yeah, I would. Not I guess. I would definitely want to cache those. I'm still thinking about how I would want to do that. All right, here we go. So we'll do manga page LFU. So manga page LFU. So we'll have two different types of LFUs. We'll have a request LFU, I think, and then we'll have a manga page LFU. Actually, these will be the same thing, so okay. So this will be a pool string array. Pool string array is equal to, can I do this? Doesn't that just create like a, I don't remember. Pool string array. Welcome to the party. E-tags are a header returned by the server that is basically a hash of that resource. It only changes if the resource is changed. Is that true? I've never heard of that. Is that something that is usually sent back? Really? I'm not familiar with this. Cool. That's weird. Does Postman give me these? So this is my Postman. So if I look at my console, will I have an E-tag? Because you still make the request, but you include a header. If it matches the server, it returns a specific status code and doesn't return a body. Yeah, it's like it gives you like a 201 or something. Nothing changed. Response header. Is there an E-tag here? Have I just never noticed? Yeah. I don't see an E-tag. Oh, I have to include the E-tag header? Is that how that works? Usually API calls don't return that. It's more for things like images. I don't know. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because you wouldn't, yeah. I don't know. Interesting. So if I do, oh, this is tough. Doing this from Postman is kind of tough. So if we want to look at a specific thing, let me see. I have all the requests here. So we do get MangaDex at home server. So we need the chapter ID. This is the chapter ID. Not this. This. Click on it. Chapter ID. Some frameworks will set it for you, but I've used it for caching expensive SQL calls. Interesting. Relationships. This is the manga ID. I'm gonna see if this does send me, if this sets, or if MangaDex gives me an E-tag, then I'll try to use that. Yeah. Otherwise, I won't. I think, honestly, at this point, I don't think I will anyways, but maybe. Ooh. What is this? Ooh. That's not correct. What? This should have given me like a MangaDex at home server. Is my refresh token borked? That's probably what happened. So we refresh the token. Switch off the refresh token page. Go back. MangaDex at home server. There we go. So this is now our base URL. I set this automatically. Then we can get high quality page. I think I have, oh, I don't have the chapter page ID. So this is the chapter page ID, I think. So grab one of these, set this as chapter page ID, pull high quality page using, oh, I need the chapter hash. This is the chapter hash, which is not the same as the E tag, I'm pretty sure. MangaDex at home, chapter hash, chapter page ID, send it. Yeah, there we go. So we looked at this one before, but now I can look at what it's actually returning. Is there an E tag here? Content type, blah blah, X cache hits, expires connection. Yeah, I don't see an E tag. These are my request headers. Yeah. I guess not. I guess they don't send an E tag. I guess maybe on their side they would send you or they would just keep track of who's hitting their server. Looks like their images return E-tags. Where? Where do I see it? I think I missed it. Where's the E-tag? I suppose I am just showing my token, but that's okay. As long as you don't see my refresh token. E-tag, E-tag. These don't look like E-tags. Doesn't it just say like E-tag? What is this? Nice. Oh, I was gonna say that. Is that Laharl? Here's one that returns it. Okay, hold on. We'll hit it with the inspect. Go to network. Hit it with a refresh. Okay. May not be all of them. I think it depends on... Well, I think that's because this comes from MangaDex.org, whereas you can see here that I'm not actually hitting MangaDex.org. I'm hitting just one of their image servers directly. So I'm using their API. So I'm looking at the... Yeah, there's the E-tag, yeah. E-tag. But here, I don't have an E-tag. That's why I'm confused. How do I make this bigger? Isn't it zoom in is control plus equals? Yeah? Yeah, so I don't have that header here. Yeah, I think it's because of this URL. So this is the URL, something 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 dot mangadex dot network over an SSH connection. So not quite there, not quite there. Maybe one day. Also, what is this? Yeah. 信じられないだろうかだろうが才令和10年 how do you say that in Japanese? It's 10年 that's behind. I know what it means in Japanese. I don't know how to say it. Kara kita something. Just a random one I found. All right, so this is. Hold on, we can kind of figure it out from context. So this is believe. Nai daroga. So don't believe. Not believing is something 10 years in the future. From 10 years into the future. Something you. He's done it. Mastered a Japanese. So omae da. Omae is you, very disrespectful. This is 10 years in the future, 10 years behind, literally. Kara is from some point in time. I know that this means believe, shin in Mandarin Chinese. I see a nai, which means negating it. And I think daroga is just a thing you say. I don't really know. We're doing a lot of guessing here. Clearly the best way. Of learning any language. It's actually not a horrible way of learning languages, I think. I think that's kind of what I do. Or that's what I used to do back when I traveled more for work. Was I would... when I was on the plane traveling to and from city, Austin, Texas, I would just read Spanish articles. I would just read like news stories in Spanish. So I got really good at reading things in Spanish. And of course, Spanish, you know, took that in high school. And it's also fairly close to English, and especially if there's like pictures. I can definitely figure out what they're talking about. Alright, so these will both be an LFU. So you have your image LFU, and then you'll have your request LFU. So on my side, I'll keep track of the specific requests using the LFU. Then we can do, I don't know, like a function like find, basically. And then we'll want to find some sort of text, it's a string. And then this will return, all right, so say that we do this. Say we do that, then what? Then what? Say we do that, then what? If we find it, then what should I return? That's tough. I saw that, Def. Shh, it's okay. Probably want a dict that keeps access counts. You don't really need an access count for an LFU, right? Like, you just need to keep track of which one is the least frequently used. Right? So if we do something like this, let's keep this untyped for now, or I guess the return type ambiguous for now, right? So we hit it with an init function. Right. So what we'll want to do is we'll create a new pool string array. So LFU is equal to pool string array new, and then we can just reorder it whenever we want, because it is an array of strings. And so whenever we try to access something, we'll just push it to the front. We'll just reorder the entire dictionary, or I guess we'll push it to the back. So anything that's in front will be once the pool string array runs out of space. So we'll do an LFU resize. We'll call it 50. We'll call it 100. Call it 100. So it'll only keep 100 images or requests. It doesn't matter. It'll keep 100 in memory. So once we run out of indices, then we will we'll just start popping them from somewhere. A double linked list would be perfect for this. Like this is basically like exactly the solution that I was told like I should have done back when I failed the code challenge. It's like you don't need to keep track of access counts. Like if you're keeping track of access counts, then I think that's a different type of cache. But I'm trying to think. So given this pool string array, so this pool string array will either contain, so going back to this, you can see here that, okay, for some reason I'm not able to zoom in, by the way, using the hotkey. But, so these are the images that we're pulling. So, and I don't want to keep the MangaDex at home server because that's not for me to decide, that's for MangaDex to decide. But I do want to keep these in the cache because I'm pretty sure these don't change. If they do change, then the LFU is for nothing. So on access, you delete the item from the array and push it to the end. Yeah, something like that, basically. And so once we start running out of room, then that's when I start popping them from the front. And I'm not sure if that's inefficient in Godot or not. I don't remember. Let me see, pool string array. So yeah, we can remove, oh actually, is that something I can do? Remove an element from the array by index. I don't remember. So if you remove an element from a list in Godot, I feel like I need like a Godot interpreter just to see what would happen. Anyways, tell you what, I'm gonna use the restroom really quick, so I'll be right back. BRB. Oh, hello, I'm back. All right. So here's what I need to do. I need to check to see if... I feel like whenever I do like the full screen in Windows like that, it kind of freaks me out because it's just too big. You found that the underlying data structure was a linked list, but it looks like Godot array is more a traditional array where we're moving and inserting from anywhere, but the end is slow. Yeah, just how to erase and insert they mention slow. Do they really? Does it say that in the built-in docs? Where's erase? So there's two types of arrays in Godot. So you have the variance array, and then there's the pool string array. Yeah, so you're just looking at the regular array. Yeah. So the pool string array, in theory, should be more efficient. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But the pooled is even slower because it packs items even closer. Is that how that works? I don't know. I suppose we can always look at the implementation. Hooray! Let's look at C++ code. Everyone loves C++. So Godot. Let's look at. I'm on 3.4. Don't believe I'm using 3.x. I used to be using 3.x for a while. Probably a malloc block of memory. Yeah. They're all within the same whatever space page. I think that would be in core. Ooh, here's array.c++. Where's the pooled array? Packed data container. Paged allocator. Pool allocator. Pool vector. Pooled list. Pool vector. I never really know which one to look at, by the way. Is it going to be in the header? Probably not, but sometimes it is. Oh, these are for templates. Oh, that's gross. I don't think this is what I want. Right? I don't know. I think I'm just looking for methods that correspond to what I'm expecting. So there's insert, join, resize. Ooh, that looks familiar. Ooh, linked list for Godot. Ooh, is there a license on this? Or would this even be like fast at all? Okay. So linked list. Oh, so a linked list has a linked list item, and then those items look for the next one. There's one built in that's not exposed. Double linked list closed. Oh, that's good. Ooh. So it's in Goose. It's in Goose, but I don't use Goose. I wonder if this is even worth looking at. Like, I think it's probably okay for whatever I'm doing. Pool vector. Pool vector is probably not what I want. Faster for huge arrays because normal arrays have to shift every item when moving items. Yeah. I know that. Linked list. So isn't like a linked list, all that happens is that like the list container itself does not keep track of the items. It's the items that keep track of each item, something like that. And so in a linked list, you wouldn't want to do index access if you wanted to get things in order. Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know. I've never taken data structures. I've never studied programming. I just know enough to be able to talk about it. I don't know. Like, I think this looks okay. Tracked pooled list. Not this one. I do recognize a lot of these. I just wonder where, like, I just want to see how the, like, this is the regular array. But where did the pooled things come into play? Iteration is slower and less cache friendly, but removal and insertion can be faster. I'm sure there's trade-offs. Yeah. I don't know. Let's just do this the simple way, and we'll just use an array. It won't be super fast, but that's okay. That's okay. And I suppose in this way, the Linux kernel uses them all over the place, even if macros are iterating over them. Double a linked list. Yeah, because you can go backwards and forwards. Yeah. Probably be best. Yeah, since I don't need performance. It would be nice to have performance, but this is fine. This is just an array, which means that we also need to do this. Did you know that there used to be a bug in Godot? Sorry. Pressed the wrong key like 4 times in a row because I wasn't holding down my layer button. But there used to be a bug in Godot where if you created an array, which one? If you created an array like this, it would be, they would all share the same array object. And I think that was actually in for like quite a while because just no one ever really noticed. So instead, like, this is the preferred way of creating arrays, is doing the square brackets. If you create an array by using the name, I think they would share the same object in memory. And so I think for this program here, when you are, that's one of the things in the VRM loader, right? Is that's one of the notes that's mentioned, is like, don't use, array open parenthesis close parenthesis, because that's broken. And so I was like, I didn't know that was a problem, but that's really good to know. Good thing I always do array construction like this. Back to the duck. I left notes so others wouldn't have to suffer. Yeah, well, that's also like the thing, is I've never seen anything about it. So it seems kind of weird. All right, now I'm thinking. So now it's an untyped array, so that's fine. It's an untyped array. How do I get the data back out of it? How do I get the data back out of it? So we can make it an array of dictionaries. That might not be the greatest idea, but we could. So it's an array of dictionaries, and each dictionary would contain the string value of the image, or just the entire request, like that. Yes. Yes. So class LFU item. It's getting pretty close to being the linked list thing. So var, this is, I don't know, name. No, name is a reserved word. I don't know. Item, sure. Item, string, and then var, data, which is just going to be something. We'll leave that up to chance. We'll leave that up to fate. So we'll duck type the data, because that's something that Godot allows you to do. Then we'll have p item, and then p data. Because Godot also does not like it when you shadow variables. So we'll do item is equal to p item. And then data is equal to p data. Wait, the built-in dictionary is actually ordered? Is it actually? I thought the Godot's dictionary was not an ordered dic. Yeah, I thought it was, I thought they were unordered. Oh, we'll preserve insertion order when adding elements, even though this may not be reflected when printing. Okay, cool. You know what? I've always skipped that one. I've always skipped reading that line. Or I guess I skipped this part of the sentence. I only remembered the not reflected when printing the dictionary. Okay, well, there we go. Then we can do that. Actually, can I do that? Then we would have to do erase. Yeah, okay. Yeah, actually, that's really good. I didn't realize that. Yeah, as long as they're in the correct order, then I don't even need to have an LFU item, right? We can just do, this is now a dictionary. So this is now a dictionary of string to something. String to something. Right, so can't resize, I guess, but then we'll do LFU is whatever. Okay. And then I guess find will also just have to be duck typed, right? So then we will iterate over. So for key in LFU dot keys, I'm assuming that keys will give you the things in order. And then when you erase, it will do the array thing and reorder them for you. I'm not sure though. Returns a list of keys in the dictionary. All right, so Godot, dictionary keys ordered. Ordering, sorting objects in a dictionary. What do you got? JSON, blah. JSON dictionaries are defined by the official spec to be unordered. That's in 2017. Oh, a recent, oh, it's 2017. Get out of here. I'm getting confused. 2020. We're gonna some test to verify the order is what you expect. Yeah, I think that's tough. That's tough. I think I'd rather just do this really quickly. I guess that's probably okay. Yeah, I guess if we want to do a really quick test, right, we can do... I don't know, man. For I in... I don't know. We're gonna do A, B, C. We'll do LFU equals. So they'll just be equal to, the key and value will be the same thing, right? And then we'll just print it out, I suppose. Hold on, we can do this instead. So in setup, to do testing, the user's complaint is acting weird. So we're having a REPL would be awesome in Godot. Yeah, I think you totally could have a REPL, because GDScript does have an eval function. So it could work. So this is image LFU dot LFU. I is equal to I. And then we can do for I in image LFU dot LFU dot keys print I. That's really simple, really easy. So I'm gonna make a plugin for that. It shouldn't be too hard, I think, right? We can do that right now. I'm not gonna do that right now. All right, it looks like it's ordered at the very least, right? So I can see here that I iterated over the array of A, B, and C, inserted A, B, and C into the LFU, and then I iterated over the keys, and then I get A, B, C out. And then let's see what happens if I do image LFU erase B, and then we can do image LFU. Actually, hold on. Wait a minute. Is there a way to move the value then? If you can erase it. All right, so you can't move it. You must. Oh. Okay, so you need to erase it and then re-add it for it to be, I guess, you know, move it to the end basically, right? Yeah, ACB. Okay, so that's a bit tough, but that's okay. Edit, evaluate, selection. Is that how that works? Where is that? Oh. What? What? That's strange. Huh? So it evaluated it. So print returns null, but then it placed it back into here? Why? Huh? So what happens? I'm tempted to just hit. What was that? That was Control-Shift-E. What happens if I do Control-Shift-E on setup? What happens? Like it evaluated my code, but setup doesn't return anything. It'll run this code and then I guess it'll just have a memory leak. And then it'll also just give me back null here as well. Who asked for that? I think if it evaluated it and then like output it to the console, that would be sick. But like, why would I want to write code? I don't know actually. Hold on. Wait. Wait a minute. Now I'm thinking. For I in 1, 2, 3 prints I, and then I do all of this. Is it just gonna give me 1, 2, 3 if I do? Nope. Is that how that works? Evaluate. No, I don't quite understand. We're learning. Latest unstable. Alright, what am I looking at here? Parsing variables to an expression. Example script. Probably outputs the result of the last expression. Well, yeah, that's what evaluate does, right? I know how that works. I think that's, if you look at the Lisp I wrote, that's actually how it has engine interop. It's because it uses expressions to just run arbitrary Godot code, if you want. Or GD script code. So if you write a valid GD script string in GD Lisp that I wrote, then it will execute properly using the expression class. So I know how that works. For key and LFU keys, if key is equal to text, then one will want to break, but, well, I guess lastly we'll want to break out of the for loop. I think we'll also want to return. Actually, hold on. No, yeah, I think we'll just return LFU key. Right, but then we'll also want to do, hold on. There's a few things we need to do here. Var result is equal to LFU key. Don't know what it is, and then we'll return the result later. But then we also need to do LFU dot erase key, and then we'll do LFU key is equal to a result. Oh baby. And so that's how we do our LFU cache. So there's our find function. That should work. Yeah, so what happens when we do a find is we find whatever is in there. So it returns results. Otherwise returns null. Hooray for null values. So yeah, so we search through every single LFU key. If we find the key, then we grab the value, erase the key, push the key back onto the end of the LFU. You know what? I'm doing this backwards. I'm doing this backwards. How do I... Can I reverse this? So we can do var LFU keys is equal to... This is an array. I don't know. How would I do a for loop? How do you do a reverse for each loop in Godot? Godot reverse for each. Reverse for loop. Sure. This was awesome. I tried writing a direct Lisp to JavaScript compiler, but there's so many edge cases while I was getting into Lisp. Super fun, but the last thing in this world needs is another Lisp, plus ClojureScript is just that. Yeah, ClojureScript, pretty neat. I like Clojure's syntax a lot. Big fan, big fan. Maybe keys reverse. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. But I think keys reverse. I don't know. Do you think that's fast? Like if it's I don't know. I don't know. What I could do is this. And by this I mean we could do boom 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 for key. I guess it's like just index, right? So for I in range LFU keys dot size. Is size a function or a property? Range What else? Let me see. So it's var args, that's great. Range can be 1 argument to argument n, 2 arguments, initial and final -1, then increments. Okay, so yeah, so it would be keys size -1, I think, to 0, and we'll step backwards, right? And then we'll do, oh, hello? Can't get index size on base array. Size. And then we'll do var key is equal to LFU keys. Maybe I should cache the keys, var LFU keys is equal to LFU dot keys. So that should be okay. LFU keys dot size, and then we'll just access like an array. Dictionary class already has a size function. Yeah. But see, I already have the array here, so might as well just use the array. That's the way I see it. Wait. Yes. Wait. Yes. Yes? Hold on. So we grab the array of keys. We grab the size, that's fine. And then we grab the key from the keys by index. So this is the key. And then if the key, and remember that the key is mapped back to one of these things. So this thing will actually give me back an array of bytes. Wait, you should be able to just call get, then erase, then insert. Ooh, really? Oh yeah. I could just call get, and then check to see if it's null. You know what? That's way easier than whatever the heck I'm doing. That's a great point. So var results is equal to LFU get, because get is null safe. Yep. And then we'll want to get text. So if results, then we'll want to do LFU erase text. That's a great point. That's way easier than whatever the heck I was doing. LFU is insert. Yeah, there's no inserts, right? Yeah. LFU text is equal to result. Return results. Otherwise, return null. Yeah, that's way better. What the heck? Yeah, okay, so there's find, and so that should do all the requisite stuff we need to do. Then there will be function add, and so we need to add I guess the key. You know what, let's call this key as well, just so I don't get confused. So this, we're always finding a key, right? And then this one will have data, and then we just won't define what exactly it is. So we can do, this one is where we need to, I guess at least get the first bits and then see what it is. Yeah, okay. So LFU key is equal to data, and then we do the size check afterwards. So if LFU size is greater than some constant, can I define a constant in a inner class? Constant LFU max. So this is an integer, what I call it, 50 is more than LFU max. Yes. Then we'll do LFU dot erase LFU keys, get the first index. Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah, okay, cool. And there you have it. There's your find function, and there's your, or I guess there's your get function, huh? Call it a get. So you have your, oh no, we can't call it get because you need to have get. Get's a reserved word, I forgot. So it's find. You can maybe set the type of data to variance if you want to keep it all typed. I don't think you can do that though, right? Because, well, yeah, because pool bytes arrays aren't variants. I think pool bytes arrays are just values. Like those are one of the base types. So I think Godot will still work. It's just a bit of a misnomer at that point. So I think I'll keep it duck typed. Anyways, that works. Neat. There's the LFU. I'm pretty sure that'll work. Now we need to add that to pretty much everything. I'm thinking, does client pool? Yeah, client pool has access to main display. And that's tough. Do each MDR handler have access to main? They do. Okay. Well, there we go. Yeah, so inside of each MDR handler, I'm thinking. I'm thinking. If last request type is not, hold on. This is a bit complicated. So how do I get this to interact with my LFU? Don't save this. Just close it. Don't save. I don't know what I was doing here. So, or do I want to do it inside of the screen instead? I don't think I want to do it inside the screen. I think it's easier to just do it inside of each, basically each client's HTTP client. So each HTTP client will have a handle onto the LFU. I should probably use a mutex since I do have the ability to multicast requests. So I actually, when I boot up into the main screen here, if you look at the logs, you'll notice that it's actually sending 2 requests really, really quickly. And normally, if you just had one HTTP request node, you would get an error. Yeah, you can see that I'm using 15 and 13 really quickly, in quick succession. Yeah. And so the problem with that, right, is since I'll be building in LFU cache support to each of these HTTP clients, or they're HTTP requests, but I'm calling them clients. They might access the same data at the same time, which, I don't know, that feels like I should use a mutex, but I'm not sure. Let's think about it. I'm thinking. So in send, I'm thinking if we do it in send request, that's where I can do the caching, right? So is ready for new request, false, and then we can return we can have 2 separate return points, I think. Sounds like you need to make a pool of HTTP. Oh, see, way ahead of you. I already got that working. So I do have a pool of HTTP clients. That's how I'm able to fire off 2 requests at the same time. It was surprisingly difficult in Godot. Or I shouldn't say difficult, it's surprisingly roundabout. Because then it requires me to do... Yeah, basically it requires me to do something like this, where I have... I yield until the next available client is here, which in this case, I can just assume it will be here, but it's just good practice to yield. And then we call the actual request, and then we get the next client, and then send the get user feed request. And then you just have to handle all the callbacks in one mega function. I think it should be possible to hook up to specific requests, but that sounds complicated. Because I need to... Actually, I'm not sure. How would I do that? I think it's just easier to just hook up to one request and then handle everything inside of the one callback, but maybe that's false. I'm still thinking about whether or not this is a good design pattern or not. Like, obviously not, but in Godot, you don't have too many options. Probably have tried that horrible interface away. Yeah, well. Here we are. This is what we got. So, let's see. Var cached result is equal to main what did I call it? Request LFU. Request LFU dot find. Ooh, is it the path? Oh no. Did the caller yield and process the response itself? I'm still not sure. I suppose it could work. I think there's a lot of better ways you could do it, but this is like the most direct way I could find. I suppose maybe let the caller yield. So if I let the caller yield, so this is the function. Where am I yielding? I don't know, Godot client pool. Client pool. I think the problem with doing like anything HTTP related in Godot is that no one does that. Right, more results from Godot engine. So these are like pooling, kinematic body 2Ds, Godot pool. Like this is an actual pool game. An object pool, which is not what I want. Like I know how an object pool works. But I don't need an object pool. I think this might be the first client pool, right? If we do HTTP client pool. App development is not the most common use of Godot. Yeah, I feel like I'm one of the few people that makes apps. Like there are like some pretty high profile ones, right? Like aren't there's a few art programs in Godot. I think Material Maker or something like that. Is that what it's called? Material Maker? Yeah, Material Maker is Godot. Yeah. You can see it even uses the Godot interface. Yeah, okay, yeah, but I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that's done a client pool, at least that I can see. Anyways, I think if we're posting data, we don't want to check for... So if method is equal to HTTP client method post, so if not method post, well, that's tough. I feel like it's only for certain request types that will want to That's a bit hard. That's a bit hard. You want a global called HTTP with a request function that yields until it returns. So in your application code, you do something that would block the current coroutine and return a response object of some sort. They can open. Of course, no. Well, see that's I think that's simple, but then that also means that you can only send one request at a time, right? So I think like that makes sense, but I don't think I would want to do that. Because then I don't get to multicast out a bunch of requests all at the same time, which is what I wanted to do. Like, isn't that's basically the point of a client pool? HTTP library would maintain a pool of HTTP clients. Well, then wouldn't I need to? Well, if you did it in Godot, it would block, right? Unless you spun up a new thread. Right? I'm pretty sure that would block. In Godot. I think if you're doing it in like a better programming language, you would have like async support. But in Godot, if you just yielded until the current request was completed, you're basically blocking that entire flow until the request completes, and then you continue on to the next request, block, wait for a response, go back. Yeah, you would want it. Yeah, well, see, that's what I'm saying is I don't want it to block. See, what I'm doing here is I'm only blocking if there's no available clients, and then I send all the requests all out at the same time. So the only time I ever block with any of these requests is if there's a dependency on a previous request. You could have a request many function. Well, then how would that work? I guess, yeah. If you had a request many function, then your client pool would take care of scheduling all of the clients in the pool. But then you would have to wait until every single client got its data back, right, before you could return? Well, maybe not. I guess then your client pool would need to, yeah, I guess your client pool is already listening to each one of the clients. One of my favorite programmers? Oh, it's not me. All right. No offense. No offense taken. Coroutines, async callbacks. Yes, that's blocking. Yeah. Well, we can't return here. Well. Coroutine, query. Well, see, I don't really have that kind of access. I suppose I do, but the problem is getting the clients, right? And that's what I'm doing here. This opposed to needing to use async is you can't push them all into an array and wait for them with a promise all. Yeah. Like, see, this is pretty much what I'm doing, except I'm assuming that they have some sort of pool that implements this query thing and then selects the client, whereas I've decided not to abstract that away for whatever reason. Like, this is not bad. I feel like this is one abstraction away from not being too bad, right? This is one abstraction away from not being too bad. This is most of the way there, right? We block until we get a client, then we call the request. We block until we get a client, then we send the request. It could be a lot worse. It's always something you refactor later. Yeah. It's already like pretty separated out, right? Because you always need to go through the client pool. So the only thing that really needs to change is the client pool, and the client pool, like, it's really just this one function, and then the setup function, of course. So it's very lightweight. And then here, I guess we'll just find the path, and then if cached results, then we'll do what does request do? Request, hold on. Basically do it the way Godot wants you to do it. Yeah. I'm doing it the way Godot wants me to do it, but I'm also the only one who's done it, as far as I know, so. It's the Godot way, and if you want to do it the Godot way, it's gonna suck. I think I can just omit the signal directly. Yeah, can't I just omit this? Yeah, right? So I can do omit signal, request completed, and then just pass along all the arguments. So results, I don't know, man. What's the request completed thing? It's the, I don't know. Result okay. Result okay. Stat response code. We'll call it a 200. Why not? Headers. No headers. And then the body, which is a pool string array. That's a bit tough. That's a bit tough. I'm thinking. Oh, okay. So here's a new idea. We have a different signal that we read from, right? So signal LFU cache LFU item cache LFU cache item found. Yeah, so then it's just the item. Yeah. So what we can do, oh, that's still kind of tough, right? Because we can hook up to that, right? We can hook up to LFU cache item found, self on LFU cache item found, right? And we'll just handle it slightly differently, because once we have the cache item, like we don't need to do any extra parsing, like it's just there. And that's why I'm rewriting it, is because on request completed, it actually expects a pool byte array, so I would need to, I don't know. How would I do that? I guess if I change how the LFU works, and so it's always just a pool bytes array, I guess that would be okay. Yeah, you know what? Yeah. So if we change this, so this is just always pool bytes array. I mean, this is just a comment, so it doesn't do anything. Yeah, you know what? I think that could work. That's actually a slightly better solution. So we always just cache it here. And then the cached result, which is going to be a pool byte array. So emit result and then return. Return okay. Right? And then okay is like a zero. Yeah, it's a 0. So we're hoping for a 0, because send request int error, then we check error. What does check error do? It just checks for, is it okay or not. Neat. It's kind of a weird abstracted Golang structure. All right, but now I gotta think. How do I know if it was cached or not? How do I know if it was cached or not? if we do this, so is cached, or was cached, right? Was cached. And then this will be a bool equal to false. And then only in this instant, when we pull something from our LFU, we'll pass in true as the last thing. Using signals for everything is certainly different from most app development I've done. I know Qt does a bunch of stuff using signals. Nice. Most app development I do is just completely async. So, or at least like it's like everything is multi-threaded by default on its own thread. And then you just have designated places where you block. And that's how you know I work in integration. Integration developer and or QA developer. May or may not be doing both at the same time. So was cached. All right, so we parse the body. Yeah. Yeah. Or no, we can do if was cached, then do a thing. Otherwise, don't do a thing. If it not was cached, then we'll do main. Oh no, then we need to figure out. No, we can just assume that this is the LFU. This is the request LFU. Then we'll add. I don't have the. I don't have the thing. I don't have the request. I can look for the last request. Or I can look for the last request parameter. Or request URL URI. Okay. So this is getting really strange. So var last request URI string. Empty for now. Right. Then when we do send request, we'll do last request URI will be equal to this thing here. And so thus we are saving it. And so that will be our key. Last request URI, and then we'll pass in the body as well. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? It feels like kind of a waste, for sure. Feels like kind of a waste. I wonder if I start duck typing this. So I only duck type the body. It's okay. Well, let's add a to do, I guess. To do. If body is duck typed, then we can store the result in the LFU instead of unmarshalling it every time. I think that makes sense, right? It's interesting. I think that'll work though. And it should be a lot faster as well. Although it does require the use of the client pool still. So we still need to draw from the pool of clients, but it should be a lot faster now. And then when we send request, so we can force a request, or we can force it to send like an actual request instead of pulling from the LFU if you want to get the most up-to-date data. So how would I do that though? I can have another option here. So var force new request bool false. Yeah, okay. So if we call this function, or if we set this flag, yeah. So instead of having to add a parameter to every single one of these functions, we can just check, if force new request, then here. So if method is not post, so I think on a post request, it doesn't make a lot of sense to cache the result. Because usually on a post request, you're changing some data. So if method is not post and not forcing a new request, yeah. And then here, force new request is equal to false. So you always need to toggle on force new request if you want to use it. Yeah, okay. So if you did toggle on force new request, then you would not use the cache, right? So if you did not have force new request on, then you would go through, assuming that you're calling some sort of get method. This is valid, and then we're not forcing a request, so then we use the cached result if there is one. And then we'll go through the entire thing, wait for the response, parse it. Oh, was cached. Okay, so was cached defaults to false anyways, unless we actually use the cached result. Yes. Yeah, I'm running through the flow in my head. This is tough. Cache result, blah, blah. So it's not cached, so we don't add it to the cache. Let me parse it. Do all the good stuff, and then, yeah, I think that'll work. And I think we can actually just cache the real result anyways. Well, no, it's okay. Well, so how would this work if it was not cached? So we duck type the body. We duck type the body. So we don't even know that it's a pool byte array, and then we wrap these two things, or we wrap pretty much everything in an if, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's save where we're at. I actually don't even know if this is valid or not, but we're gonna save really quick. Git add all. Let's see. Implement navbar implement, or start implementation on LFU. Could you pass the key to the request completed signal? Request completed. I could. Wait, no. What do you mean pass the key? I think I... Am I doing that? I could actually. Now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, now I'm thinking about it, yeah, because the last request URI is the key. So I wouldn't need to, I guess, cache it within the client itself, which is very strange. So we have was cached, and then we have cache key, which is some sort of string. Yeah, that could work. So we don't need this anymore. Did I already? I already committed it. Yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense though. So this is just like request URI. Yuri, if you will. Woo-woo. Do all of this, and then this will be cache key. And so that's one of the things that we can assume will be populated, because that's one of our optional variables that will only ever be hit if we had something in our cache. And then I think here we can duck type this. Oh, what's your problem? Oh, right. That's okay. And then, if not was cached. So we'll do all of this then. So if it was not cached, ooh, hold on, I'm thinking. Parsed body. We're just kind of shifting things around. Ooh. So there's your parsed body, and we'll add the parsed body to your cache. Otherwise, I guess your parsed body is just equal to the regular body. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think that'll work. So that's the big change, is we wrap all of this in like a really ugly, just mega if else loop. But at least at this point, now we're actually storing, I guess, the actual results. So the actual results could either be something that we need to parse, so it'll either be a JSON response or it'll actually just be a byte array, which is good enough. That's fine. So emit signal, ready to read. Yeah. I think that'll work. So let's give it a try. I haven't really been testing this while I was going, so this will be exciting. This will be very exciting. Send it. Ooh. I think we're good. I think we're good. So let's see how fast this is when we log out. Go back in. I have a feeling that it's actually sending in. I have a feeling it's still sending real requests, because it's taking a little longer than I thought it would. So main display, so we have request LFU. LFU, dictionary of size 1. Ah, there is no key. Interesting. So when I added it to the cache key. Oh. Hold on. Hold on. Request URI. You know what? I don't think I'm able to do that. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, because I don't have access to the URI here. Yeah. You know what? I don't have access to that. That won't work. So I do need to use last request URI here. Unfortunately. Because it's just not there. Just not there. last request URI. This needs to use boom, boom. And then also take out this. I think that's okay. Yeah. So at least, at the very least, we're always setting the last request URI, but the problem is that we don't have access to that in the callback. So, it's all right. We'll figure it out still. Boom. Please work. There we go. Go back. Not quite as fast as I thought it would be, huh? So, request LFU, dictionary is size 4. Is it sending the same thing over and over again? No, I think that makes sense. I don't know. We can add some things into the code to just see if it's using the cached response. So, if cached result, we emit the signal, then return OK. So then we can do print, debug, hello. Phenomenal. All right, well, you know what? I just saw another thing get added to it. Well, not quite. Let's try that one more time. Let's try that one more time. Send it in. Not using the cache. Still not using the cache. Interesting. So it's never used the cache before. That's why. But they do exist in the cache. Huh. I thought that would work. Find. Oh, it's the path, not the last request URI. But I need to. Well, I suppose it doesn't matter, right? As long as as long as it's consistent. But now this should fix it, I think. I was storing the path, but it should have been the request URI instead. So log out, go back. Huzzah, he's done it. It's so fast. Look at that. Whee! Well, this doesn't do anything, but. And I think ping should also be using it should be pinging properly instead of reusing the request. So I just did. Did you just do your taxes for the rest of the year? Did you do your taxes early? Is that what happened? I'm proud of you. Let's see, then we can also do this and hopefully the cache will work. The cache is not working. Oh, it's because I didn't implement the cache yet. That's fine. Look how fast that is. No, I compiled arraylib from source and did a basic window. Oh baby, you compiled it from source? Wait, did you actually compile it from well, I suppose there's only ever one way to compile it. Because it is just a C program, so you do have to just compile it from source every time. It doesn't really matter. It's actually easy. Well, yeah, because you're using the one with all the templates, right? If you're doing it on Linux, it's a bit harder. Unless they also provide templates for Linux now. In which case, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't think you were doing it from Linux, but I was just saying. So if method is not post and not what is it? Last request type is not, what is ping? So we should always ping. Everything else I think is fine. Yeah. Use a tutorial from Rudy Fail. Nice. Yeah, I like Raylib. I like Raylib. If you can figure out how to do it pretty well. I think that the nice part about Raylib is that you don't need to worry about memory management as much, since Raylib should be taking care of that for you for the most part. Although I think you do have the ability, if you're an advanced user, to switch out the memory allocator and just like do everything manually, I suppose, which is cool. All right, so let's see. What's neat is that I've just implemented an LFU, I think. I'm actually not sure if the LFU works or not, but we're getting to it. So if force refresh. And so what the LFU does is that it caches requests, so we don't need to send duplicate requests to MangaDex. How neat. And user data client force refresh equals true. This is kind of ugly. This is kind of ugly, I'm not gonna lie. What is it called? Force new request. I'm so happy now. Oh baby. Now you need to make asteroids. Make asteroids without using a tutorial. Still need to find a way to do 3D stuff in it if I want to do something. I don't know. I mean, the examples for Raylib are pretty good. So I would just look at those and see how they do it. But 3D is hard to make assets for. That's the hard part. Is making assets is hard, but working in 3D is, well, I think if there's like a cliff of difficulty for making like 3D assets. So if you don't know how to do 3D assets at all, it's really difficult. But once you learn the basics, it's not too hard. But then once you start getting into like PBR, materials and all that, that's when it starts to get really, really tough again. It's kind of one of those kind of things where it's swings wildly from one side to the other. PC9 do infinitely looping in background. Infinitely looping background isn't too difficult, right? I think like at most you would need, well, depending on the size of your background, you would only need to keep track of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, at the very least, you'll need at least 3 points to keep track of, and then you would just kind of teleport the image from one side to the other. It's just a lot of tricks. Once it's off screen, you move it to the other side of the screen. I think something that's a bit harder is parallax background. Since now you need to keep track of multiple points that are all infinitely looping but at different rates. Now I know how to do stuff with Raylib now. Well, you know how to do the hello world of Raylib now. You know how to do the hello world of Raylib. Let's not get too crazy with it. Simply compiling is the basics. I'm now a god. Well, that's fair. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? Let's open up Mdr Handler. Okay. So if If not force new request, then we'll do var cache result is equal to main image LFU. Try to do a little project in Raylib this week. Very nice. Assuming that you're in the US, you should have a ton of time to do that. Since Thanksgiving break should be on for most students, I would think. 200, no headers, cache result, and then true, it was cached. And we don't want to have hello. Oh, then we need to have, do I need to have the last request URI? I guess the last request URI for getting manga pages would just be, last request URI is chapter page ID. Luckily, that kind of fits together. That's not quite correct, though. And maybe we could try SFML if I'm confident enough with programming in C or C++, but I still need to learn C++ the library. Well, of course, you always need to use any of them. Even if you're using a framework like Unreal, you would still need to learn how to do C++. You would never not need to know how to learn to... You'd never not need to know how to do C++ if you're using something that uses C++ as its primary programming language. There's only so much the library or the framework or the game engine will do for you. I suppose in Unreal that's not quite true. Unreal does a lot for you with blueprints. But just remember that Raylib does a lot of things for you. Right? SFML is a pretty bare bones framework. In the same vein as SDL. Actually, why do you want to use SFML? Everyone uses SDL as the industry standard. SFML is like what you would use if you were taking like a programming class in university or something. Graphics? Yeah, you can just use SDL. Why would you want to use SFML? Or even OpenGL like you were saying? Yeah, SDL does all that. SDL does all that. SDL is the standard. Most libraries aren't built on top of SFML. There's a lot of goodies built in. Yeah, well, I don't see the. I'm gonna be honest. I don't see the value, but if you do, I guess. Emit signal. I guess we'll just return. Like, we don't even need to check the error. SDL does have a bunch of SDL libraries that are nice. Yeah. And well, and the nice thing is that SDL is the most popular one, right? Unless you're a student, and then in which case you're probably using whatever your professor learned, which used to be SFML, but there's no reason to use it now. SFML has a lot of built-in. SDL is good as a cross-platform base to run your engine on. SFML is good for like game jams. Is it? They're roughly equivalent, more or less. Like they're both like C things. Like as long as you're using I don't know. From what I could tell when I was using, they're both basically the same. All right, please get this one off the screen. All right. I've just clicked on the first one. It's not working. Hold on. Okay, so I've made a mistake somewhere because it's not using the. Is not using. Or I shouldn't say it's not using it, but it's not using the cache. Huh? What was it? What was it, Ducky? I don't know. What was I saying? I said they were both hard, so I mean they're both difficult, right? Because they're both C libraries. Class shape. Yeah. Doesn't SDL have this? SDL shape. Drawing shapes with SDL. Great source. I don't know. I have no idea. Nah, bro, the manga. Absolutely not. SDL is much more bare bones. The render stuff can draw solid rectangles and rotated scaled textures. SFML is more like Raylib. Okay, well, the more you know. Either way, I don't know. I think if you're doing C, you're pretty much gonna have to buckle up. That's pretty much my point. That's kind of what I was going for. Also, I'm not showing the manga. It's very degenerate. That's all I'll say. Yeah, Raylib has 3D stuff in the examples, yeah. Because it is just OpenGL. It's a wrapper on top of OpenGL. Like, you don't even need to use Raylib if you want. You can use, like, Ray Graphics? Ray GFX, I think it's called. Yeah, for shapes, it hasn't been updated for a hot second. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a while. I don't do C++ anymore. I only do it when I need to rip things out of Godot. C++. Oh yeah, I can't use from Lua JIT FFI, not without bindings. Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on that. I prefer higher level languages with sensible build tooling, as opposed to just all kinds of tooling. If not was cached. Okay, so I'm missing something here. Hold on. So this cached result. Huh. If not force new requests, so we should try to use the cache result. And if it is there, then we'll emit the signal and then return without actually sending the results. And then here we should catch it. So was cached. Blah, blah. Seems fine. All right, let's do this. Print, debug. Looking for image in LFU. Print, debug. Found image in LFU. All right, let's give that one more try. Let's see. Gotta be very careful, very quick about this. Scroll all the way down really quickly. Don't click on anything. Oh my god, they're just uploading a million of them. All right, now we're on Shadow's house. Shadow's house is not weird, I swear. All right, so it's just looking for image in the LFU, which is not helpful. So it looks for it, looks for the chapter page ID. So let's look at whatever is in here. So there's the image LFU. There's nothing in it. Oh, it's because they're all inside the wrong LFU. I've been placing them all inside the request LFU, but they should be inside the image LFU instead. Or I wonder, like, if it would even be worth it to create like a temp directory just full of the images. And that might be better. So if not, body empty. If not, body empty, and then here. So as long as, okay, yeah. As long as there is something to parse, then we'll slap this here. So this is adding it to the LFU. This one's adding it to the request LFU. This one is adding it to the image LFU. Image LFU. So this is just the parse body. Yeah, okay. So let's try this one more time. Once more with feeling. Scroll. Get me out of here. Get it out of here. Ah. Hopefully I didn't click on the wrong one. I'm scared. All right, so we broke. Unable to load manga page. Refresh. Unable to load manga page. That's fine. Unable to load manga page. All right, send me back. I'm scared. Ooh, get me out of here. Ah. Send me here. So it's not in the LFU. Yeah, now it's in the LFU. Yeah. There we go. And then some of these are just file corrupts. Nice. Look at that. He's done it. There's the LFU. Working as intended. So it's really fast. And then we'll keep like 50 of them in memory at one time. So it won't just like hammer the MangaDex servers. Cool. So there's an LFU implemented. Many thanks to Luvetti. Much appreciated. Almost made a few really big mistakes there. By making it really, really complicated to actually use the LFU, but luckily we avoided that. Commit, so we finish implementing LFU. All right, well, there we go. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. I will be live, what is today? Today Wednesday? No, today is Tuesday. I will be live on Wednesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern time, working on probably a game, because I'm starting to run out of time on my game. I got a little bit more than a week left to submit for the GitHub Game Off 2021, so starting to feel the pressure, and that's why we'll be more motivated to work. If you haven't given the channel a follow already, I highly encourage you to do so. I stream Sundays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern time and 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays. I have a Discord you can find here. You can find all the code that I've been working on my GitHub, more or less. Pretty much everything. It's free and open source, etc., etc. Anyways, I will see you later. Goodbye.